Well, moving on now, and I'd like to turn our attention to Afghanistan for a moment, and news overnight of another Australian soldier being wounded highlights the dangers for our troops serving there. I had the honour of meeting some of these brave men and women recently.
There's obviously risk here, and everybody's aware of that, here and back at home, but you just got to get on with it. It's a place where you're exposed to danger every single day, and you're constantly reminded of that when you're out there.
Our 1,550 Australian troops deployed in Afghanistan are exposed to threats to their safety each day. But for the soldiers on the ground, it's an accepted risk in their efforts to reconstruct the nation of Afghanistan.
The thing about being on operations like here in Afghanistan is you do feel a genuine sense of purpose. You do feel as though you are part of something that is bigger than you. You're part of a huge international effort. It's a counterinsurgency operation, which means it's about the people.
The young Australians that I have working in my battle group are fantastic. They represent the finest parts of the Australian culture. But the people over here are warm-hearted as well, and our guys connect with that. And they get a lot of enjoyment out of dealing with the locals, a lot of enjoyment out of dealing with the ANA, the Afghans, and they really enjoy what they do.
So this is your little sanctuary down here?
Yeah, this is my little home for the next 8 months.
So what little touches do you try and bring with you from home to make it feel a bit more comfortable?
Laptop's laptop is just a must. Getting on the net, sending emails back home.
Right now I'm standing in the middle of what's called the Boardwalk. It's essentially the CBD of the base here at Kandahar. You've got shops and restaurants all around the perimeter, and behind me are the sporting fields in the middle. You've got the Aussies playing touch footy behind me. In the corner, the Dutch are playing soccer. Yanks are playing baseball over in the corner, and over there the Canadians are playing their own weird version of ice hockey, but they play on concrete.
In Kandahar, our Australian troops at Camp Baker form a tiny contingent of the 30,000 soldiers stationed inside the dusty military base. But it's the small touches that help retain the Australian identity and closes the distance between Afghanistan and home.
Now, one of the more unique parts of Camp Baker, compared to the other bases that we've been to, is this spot right here, which I think has to be probably the only patch of grass in Kandahar, am I right?
It is the only patch of grass here in Kandahar, and it is the pride and joy of Camp Baker. And I'll never forget seeing an American soldier walk around with his boots off, just squinching his toes in the grass with this strange look on his face. It was, as I said, a sight that will stay with me for a long time. When you come on trips like this, it's the little things that you come to appreciate.
After talking to our troops deployed in Afghanistan, appreciation of the little things takes on a new meaning. The great sacrifice our men and women make is clearly evident.
I've got a one-year-old Lachlan at home, and also William and Sean, so my partner's looking after them.
And if they were here now, what would you like to say to them?
Oh, I just tell them that I love them so much, yeah, give them a big kiss and a cuddle.
I just spoke to my missus, Erica, back home, and our 4-day-old child. I believe this was about 2 hours after he was born.
And how long till you get to see him?
Another 5 months.
For Sergeant Peter Madigan, missing the birth of his first child is just part of the greater mission.
You make some sacrifices back home, but, it's all, I suppose, hopefully it's all worthwhile at the end of it, and we can make a bit of a difference over here.
Yet there is no greater sacrifice here than that of a fallen soldier, with our Australian forces having so far suffered 21 deaths during the conflict in Afghanistan.
It's terrible when we lose our mates and when the blokes fall. It's a place where you're exposed to danger every single day, and you're constantly reminded of that when you're out there. But yeah, we certainly never forget our mates, and and that's what we're here for. We're here for our mates.
For the Australian public, the reasons for our military involvement in Afghanistan can be confusing. Who are we fighting and why? But for those serving on the front line, such reasons take on a simpler explanation.
I just tell people back home, whether or not you agree with the war, an IED doesn't give a shit who it kills. They get women and children. That's how I justify it. Whether or not you agree with being in Afghanistan is beside the point. The biggest thing is the blokes. They keep their own morale up. We've got a really good bunch of people here. Very proud to be a part of what we're doing here, and helping these people.
Such a moving story. It really brought tears to my eyes, because you hear of the sacrifices that our soldiers make, but when you see them there with little babies at home, I mean, it just breaks your heart.
It's also a story that we need to keep at the front of the news, not buried at page 40 or something, what I mean? We've got to realise what they're doing over there and keep it in mind.
What I notice most about everyone there is how happy they are to be there doing their job that they're trained to do. They know how dangerous it is, but they say things like, it's more dangerous to drive a car on Australian roads than it is to fight in Afghanistan. And our casualties are low, and we have the best trained army in the world, and they are doing a great job.
I was watching you as you watched that tape. You're still emotionally moved by it, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's something that you get reminded of, seeing people pitch in with the floods as well. When you see people showing the best of their national character under tough circumstances, you can't help but be
Makes you proud to be Australian. It does. All right, well, we'll be back with more of the 7 p.m. project in just a moment. Stay tuned.